Greetings, fellow denizens of the asteroid. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld Tribe of the Sky 2 Love in the Kitchen. So far, due to our lovely, extremely low expectations, we are not screaming our heads off, which is great. These three have some tough moods. It's definitely helpful. Ty, you've got 5 days work drive left, which is pretty handy. I mean, you're working in the dark, which certainly comes with its own speed penalties. I wish you weren't in the dark, but I am not going to burn wood, especially not around Nutrifungus, to help your dig speed out, because that would not be helpful. Has there been any more flirting? No, there was the one flirt. Nah, rebuffed me and failed to romance me. So there's been like one flirt attempt, maybe. I will say, trying to deal with babies really early on would be pretty crushingly difficult. So I don't really mind if love blossoms slowly. It probably is in my best interest not to have children immediately. The goal, of course, is to expand the tribe, so eventually babies are hopefully a thing for other tribe members. I mean, there will be opportunities, but really early on, I probably couldn't handle it. Just too much. So, team brain versus team stomach. That's kind of what this poll comes down to. Oh, and that's not how the poll should be displayed. Oh, there we go. That's a little better, right? Actually legible. As if I, like, maybe play tested my my overlays pre-stream. But I would never do that. Will the kids still want to cloud watch and as learning type? Yeah, you don't really control their learning type. Their learning type is everything. So the other thing, of course, as you just mentioned, is if they did want to go nature running, what we would need to do is we would need to dig out like a untouched path very far away from our home tile so that they could like do that. Nature running, however, is a little bit trickier. We would need to research all the way up here, orbital tech, to get kid vac suit, because without a vac suit, you're not gonna cloud watch. You're gonna cloud suffocate to death. So having children before we have orbital tech, well, I guess it's fine, because we have 3 years, in-game years, before like a child would have those desires, because until you're 3, you don't have learning. And here, I didn't prove it to you, but if you take a look at the storyteller, it's on custom, but this custom is losing his fun, as you can see. But the only change that I made here was this one. Child aging rate, 100%, rather than 400. So it's losing his fun with slow children, meaning that it would be 3 in-game years rather than a quarter of that time. Well, whatever the math is. What 3 in-game years is 180 days, right? So, you know, 45 days. We get 3/4 of a year until they're like learning rather than 3 years. So it's a pretty significant difference. And if you're wondering about learning, the learning rate scales to the growth rate. So growing slow doesn't mean you learn slow. I mean, you learn slow, but it's like it like lines up perfectly with the milestones, in other words. All right. Team Kitchen, you have officially won this poll. I'm going to call that. So now that I've excavated the fungus, we're going to want to build a kitchen. I am just brainstorming in a minute. I think what I'm going to do so big picture here, big picture. And I'm going to just have to pause for a minute. Because we love fungus, we're likely to continually subsist off of Nutrifungus. But the Nutrifungus will not be grown here. I grew the Nutrifungus initially here because the very rich soils that it's on allow us to get food sooner, right? Because the soil here is awesome. But eventually it makes sense to lay out fungal gravel and then use this rich soil to grow things like cotton or psychoid or whatever else we might need. You know, if you're also wondering, you can plant, of course, anima trees on fungal gravel. That's fine. You can plant Gowerland seeds on fungal gravel. That's fine. There's no penalty. So these two arc tree spots are probably going to end up eventually being grow lit with grow lights that are like chem fuel powered or something. And then growing cotton, psychoid, devil strand, perhaps, you know, growing things that are probably non-edible, right? That's the sort of concept, because we love fungus. We're tunnelers. So we're always going to want to eat Nutrifungus. There's a benefit. So really big picture, we're going to have a Nutrifungal farms elsewhere. And where those Nutrifungal farms are will need to be dark, but warm. Warm is pretty easy because we have the steam geyser just generating like infinite free heat. So when it comes down to where to build the kitchen, building the kitchen is more about how close we can get to the asteroid's edge than it is placing it near these two trees. I guess that's what I was trying to get to. So taking a look, it looks like the edge of the map is thinnest here. Because, like, there is a lot of mountain up this way. Right? It's sort of thin here, too. It's very thick to the west. And it's very, very thick to the southwest and south. It's a little thin here, but not that thin. So, the idea is maybe we'll have, back to the plans. And these are crude plans. This is not game plans. We'll have Nutrifungal farms here. Or maybe here. Kitchen here. And then the kitchen can dump its heat into like a corridor that goes out to space. This way. I know this is very, very, very crude. So, the other thing that we need to be concerned about is like, I want to design it so that we don't have to constantly walk on the soils, because moving around on soil is slow and it creates a lot of filth. So I also want to design it in such a way where we walk mostly on you know, on stone, and eventually that stone is going to be smooth. So if this is our farms, I'm going to want, like, walkways around it, perhaps, to keep the farms. And eventually these farms are going to be, like I said, they're going to be not foodstuff farms. They're going to be material farms. So walkways around the farms so that we have and then we could have a second block of farms. So maybe what I'll do is I'll build a kitchen up here, because I know it's thin this way. And then we can have our Nutrifungus growing over here. So the Nutrifungus feeds to the kitchen so that we don't... The Nutrifungus will go down and feed to the kitchen like this, so we don't constantly... what I'm trying to do is brainstorm how to, like, reduce filth. Because if we're constantly transitioning from stone to dirt, dirt to stone, we're going to have a really, really, really filthy base. And because we have a very limited amount of people, I don't want to burden them with the with cleaning tasks until they're dead. Right? Like that's big picture. So, with that in mind, what I'll probably end up doing is excavating, like, all around these farms, but keeping these farms separate so that they're not a thoroughfare. And maybe mining out the middle, because eventually they're not going to need to be dark. Mining out the middle so that we can pass through the middle with a walkway. So that the pawns, because pathfinding is smarter in 1.6 because it's multi-threaded, so that they won't walk across the dirt, they'll walk through here, walling off every other section. like this. Well, it's not quite right, because it would be more like this. So if we block this out, having the kitchen be here-ish makes sense. And one of the other reasons to have the kitchen close to the map edge is you can jettison your exhaust eventually when you have a path to space. So if I built the kitchen here, it's only maybe like 20 tiles to the edge of space. And then the other thing we're going to want is the fungal farms over this way. This is, again, crude, so don't think that this is, like, final. And then probably biofuel refiner with, like, power banks that also exhaust out to space, because all the chem fuel generators are also going to generate a lot of heat. So that, what I say, is, like, really big picture. So let's go ahead and hide this. And, initially, what I'm going to want to do is to mine out this area, just so that it's a little bit more unified, so that we can traverse around the dirt and start working our way around having to walk on dirt constantly, and then eventually excavate a kitchen area, which I'm going to not path to initially, so that we excavate this zone first. So I hope that makes sense. That's the plan. Current priority. Excavate a kitchen area. Yeah, they didn't move these two chunks because you can't plant crops underneath chunks. So, like, JD will have to move these vaxstone chunks to plant there, as you can see. But you don't need to do it here, which is why these two chunks are just, like, permanently there, blocking the area. Just mechanics at play, which is, you know, it's also blocked here, too. Basically, there's a lot of stone cutting that needs to be done in order to, like, freely walk around, and we just haven't done it yet. Shouldn't I not mine those 4 at the top here? We could leave them. So, the other thing is, as far as game mechanics go, I would like to use vaxstone blocks more than smooth walls. And the reason is, smooth walls disproportionately increase your colony wealth, which can be a pretty dangerous thing to do when you have short bows and a spear. And I don't really want, like, doomsday launcher raiders coming in. Because the other thing, one of the dangerous... Ooh, components. One of the dangerous things about living up in space is no one can flee. There is no kidnap. There is no steal and leave. It is, they come and they murder, and murder is all they can do. So raids are, in effect, twice as hard. Because normal RimWorld raids, other than, like, insect, manhunter, and well, any human-like raids, they flee at a 50% loss. So once you down half of them, they flee, and sometimes they don't even flee. Sometimes they're like, oh, you know what? We're going to give up and steal what we can and leave, or we're going to kidnap who we can and leave. Up in space, it's like, you know, they're here to murder because there's no other option. So the raids are twice as hard, meaning that I need to, like, control for wealth twice as much, in other words. Which is why I'm not planning on using a lot of smooth stone, if I can help it. Plus, we're going to have, like, just an absolute abundance of vaxstone. So, I'm planning on building walls and floors, meaning mining the stuff out and then replacing it with stone blocks makes more sense to me. Now, there is a concern here, if you're wondering. Stone blocks are not airtight, whereas smooth walls would be airtight. So when it comes to the edge of our colony, I'm going to want, like, double wide stone block walls or smooth walls on the edge, or a mix of both. So when we get close to vacuum, I have to be very concerned about airtightness, because vaxstone walls are not airtight, and we can't make airtight walls from scratch. We can only smooth them from natural stone. So there is the one caveat of, like, I might use smooth stone in some unique scenarios just because we suffocate if I don't. We will see. And this is like definitely larger than it needs to be. We'll do a 7x7, it's probably fine. Alright, the Nutrifungus is about half grown. At least the northern stuff. And the southern stuff is all planted. So we have 284 Nutrifungal plants going. There is a lot of fungus. So double thick stone is airtight, yes. So if I did stone walls of 2 wide, the trouble is when you're on the edge of space, you can't build 2 wide with already suffocating. So I just have to be very careful about airtightness. At least until I get like vac suits, orbital tech, or loot vac suits off of enemies, etc. Can you just mine this, please? There we go. So we are down to 1 passive cooler. The other one has been unfueled. And as you might notice, it's a little toasty warm. It's not like gonna kill us or anything, but it's 28C now. And I've created a massive area for the heat to bleed. Right? Like this is a huge space. And even then, it's this geyser's cooking us pretty good. Down to 300 PEM? Yep. Yes, indeed. Low food warning. Nutrifungal is harvestable already, though. So, in a pinch, I could pull some out of the ground now and not die. Alright, you two are on pretty good terms with one another. But I'm not going to force romance, even though there's like a pretty decent chance it would work. 46% chance? Yeah, I'm not going to force it. So we're almost done excavating all the stuff I wanted to excavate. The laboratory has stayed pretty clean. It has like a 1% slower research rate, and that cleanliness loss is just due to the animatry, and I'm fine with that. That's acceptable. No meal source. Yeah, I noticed. I noticed. Alright, Ty, you've got 2 days of work. Most of the mining tasks are being handled pretty quick. And Ty's leveled up in mining about to hit 10. That will be a nice speed boost. JD is working pretty hard trying to keep these stones from piling up. We don't want to be drowning in stone. And then, depending on our pemmican count, I might need to do some harvest early, just to make sure that we don't, you know, starve. So the initial walls that I wanted excavated are done. Let's go ahead and tap into the kitchen area. I think what I want to do is I want to make my kitchen 7x9. So I'll expand it a little bit. Now initially I'm going to just have crude walls. I'm not going to bother with fancy walls, except for the kitchen, because the kitchen will be temperature controlled eventually. And if I leave it rough stone walls and then break it down later, we're gonna have like food spoilage problems. So I want to avoid that if I can. Is the heat production of the geyser somewhat mitigated from geothermal plant being constructed? No. Hey, look, you made vacuum. Congrats. Now, the door for the kitchen might make sense for us to use wood, because it's maybe initially I'll do it in steel, but if eventually it becomes air conditioned, we're gonna want wood or vac-berry or something, because it's gonna need to be a wholly different temperature than the outside. And unfortunately, I can't use the lovely negative 75-degree temperatures outside to cool the kitchen, because outside also doesn't have air, doesn't have oxygen. So it's not like I can put a vent in and be like, all right, all this wonderful cold air. It's not air, it's nothing. It's vacuum. So it doesn't really work as a coolant. To some degree or another, if we were able to have a thin airtight wall, there would be some heat escape, which then could hypothetically cool your kitchen. But that's like so much harder to do in practice than in theory. Meaning, it's not something I'm going to do, because it would be ridiculously hard to try to engineer that for almost no benefit. All right, we've got electricity cooking. It's looking good. Progress is being made. And we're down to about 100 PEM. Keep an eye on that. At any time, I mean, this Nutrifungus is like 78% or something. At any time I need the calories, I mean, they're sitting here. We can harvest them. And then we can very easily, because I have wood, make a fueled stove to cook what we need. That's not an issue. Ooh, another flirt attempt. Tried to romance JD, drawing attention to her own jawline. Well, you are a tough brawler. But, I don't think, pointing out how masculine you look is gonna work all that well. But who knows? Different strokes for different folks. Maybe JD don't feel like that. Alright, JD, you are going to be cooking simple meals forever. I'm not going to refuel this thing, though, because I want to save the wood. And once our pemmican gets down to, like, single digits, I'll bother cooking. I'll, like, harvest early and whatnot. Alright, oldest is 87. Nice. We're doing okay. Now, not actually, I'm not even gonna put a door in here, because one of the advantages of not having a door there yet, I'm just gonna delete it, is it's a larger void for the steam geyser to outgas into, which will make it easier to keep our base temperate on only one passive cooler, because I've been single passive coolering for a while, and it was at about 84 Fahrenheit, or like, and it's down to 80 Fahrenheit. The larger void it creates, the cooler it will be. So it's probably in our best interest for ambient temperature sake to not put doors in until we actually care about the cleanliness and room temp. So I'm not even going to bother for right now. Embrace the muscle mommy. Yeah, she is a muscle mommy. Definitely swole as hell. I mean, just look at her, like, throw her fists at this wall and punch it like she's Minecraft Steve. It's impressive. You know, this base is looking a little bit like a totem. like a totem guy or something. Accidentally. At least it's not phallic. Could always be phallic. Yeah, don't really see... Don't see that at the moment, which is good. Alright, so all of the steel up here, I'm going to want to replace with walls. And then I'm going to mine out at least the bottom part and replace it with stone, built stone walls. Dagon, thank you for the resub. Sir Cardinal 2. So, again, we are making a 9x7. So this is the form factor of the kitchen. And, just the areas it shares with, the rest of the base. Alright, we're down to single digit, pemmican. And I did say that I was going to start to, harvest early if we were down to single digits. I'm trying to find where it is most grown. So our most grown right now is 95%. So there's a 95% Nutrifungus somewhere in here. But like, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna harvest a bunch here. And then start cooking meals. And for now, we're just gonna drop them on the floor. Now, eventually, I'll put in shelving. I'll put in vac-stone shelves, stuff like that. Maybe I'll work on that now. So, oh, right. I don't even know how to make shelves because we don't have complex furniture. So that's a negative. Not gonna work. So instead, stockpile here. Meals. And stockpile here. Raw food. Ah, floor storage. It's like I'm playing Project Zomboid all over again. Magdalene, thank you for the resub too. You're enjoying all the series on YouTube? Well, my pleasure. Happy to do it. There we go. We're getting first fruit of our labors. Nom nom nom. And the beautiful thing about this is 8 cooked fungus plus 3. Yeah. Okay. They're complaining about Sky Shaman role being unfilled, so why not celebrate our first harvest with a Sky Shaman assignment? Quantum, go assign the Sky Shaman role to JD. I think. JD has a social 5. Ty has a social 5. It doesn't really matter. However, the way I see it is Ty is most likely going to be injured, so being able to preach help to Ty is really nice, meaning that JD should be a Sky Shaman. Because the Sky, and also JD is, that's what I'm thinking. Jojo Ken, thank you for the resub too. You guys are awesome. Cheers. Boom. Roll change. Alright, take a look at their moods. Can't do much about that. Or that. Or that. But basically everything that I can, all the changes that I could assign, I have assigned. Like, I'm making them as happy as I physically can, in other words. And it's a little dirty, in this barracks. I mean, some of the dirt is just like, there is chunks, and I can't do anything about the chunks. Food poisoning risk is a real risk. I mean, there's not a lot I could do to mitigate it without having the geyser make a lot more heat. But I think what I could do is I could isolate the kitchen once it's closer to being done. And, because the heat is not horrible. Hey, Quantum, thank you for the cheer. For the void. I appreciate it. All right, at this point, we are now adding, not subtracting. Electricity is nearly done being researched. And we have another work drive, which I am definitely going to hit Ty with, because there's just always more mining and construction work to be done. So that makes the most sense. No one is known comfort. Yep. Chairs are on the horizon, friends. Believe you me, we will have chairs. Just not anytime soon. Complex furniture is still a little above our heads. Alright, we're about to run out of fuel, so I doubt we're actually going to cook this meal. No, we didn't. And I am not planning on refueling this thing, because I would like our next fueled stove to, in fact, not be fueled, but electricity. The way of the future. There it is! Alright, before anything happens between you two, avoid pregnancy, please. In fact, JD and Ty. Okay, I might not even let you two sleep together, like, technically speaking. You'll be side by side. But you're not gonna share a bed, because raising a baby in a vacuum is not something I'm about to undertake at the moment. Like, you would just have a stillbirth. I mean, we're sleeping on rough ground here. This is not a position, not a condition to raise a kid at the moment. So you flirted with Ty by subtly complimenting her recreational preferences. Ty became aroused. Oh boy. I really like how you throw that sack through the hole. I'm sorry. Oh. I'm just imagining here. Maybe it wasn't like that. And a psychic soothe male. Well, that'll make Quantum happier. Alright, after the kitchen, what to build next? Science lab. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna add one more thing. There. You have yet another option at the bottom of the list, a power plant. Because electricity is happening. We are getting it in just a minute. Alright, so I'm filling the voids here. Just because I don't want, like, weird things to happen with void space. I did mention, in order to try to avoid the food poisoning risk, I was going to door that up. Which means the ambient temperature in the rest of the base is going to warm up a bit, because the steam geyser can't naturally outgas to that spot, but that's fine. So this is clean, technically. I mean, it's rough stone, but it's rough stone clean, which is fine. And yeah, refuel that passive cooler, absolutely. All right, so the other thing I wanted to do is start to add vac stone around here to limit ground tread. We just got electricity, so I'm going to get biofuel refining next. And we are nearly done with our first full harvest of Nutrifungus, which is lovely. So now at this point, the only reason to go in here is if you intend to be in the farm, right? You don't go in here for any other reason. So it's pathing isolated, which was intended. Eventually I'm going to have a path between the two, but I don't need to do that right now. All right. Ms. Tai. Sounds like we want a power plant. Correct? So let's go back to the plan and figure out exactly what it's going to look like. So eventually I'm going to have air conditioners that outgas this way, probably, because the edge of space is somewhere over here. I'm going to try to put a marker down, like, is that roughly the edge of space? And I know it's a bit of an exploit. Yeah, okay, that's the edge of space. Edge of space! And red. I just want to put it down so I can plan accordingly. Alright, so taking a look here, we have, I kind of like the aesthetic of the shape of the arc tree farms. And the other thing is, we could get more arc tree seeds. So I'm going to continue making my farms in this shape. So I'm just going to create like a plan that I can copy and paste over here. It's not in the way, but it's so that I can plop it in. So, thinking about this seriously. If we have air conditioners here, which I will call AC, they outgas to a corridor that goes out to space. Right? And then eventually we'll have like a wall enclosing it so that enemies can't get in. Or at least that's the thinking. I'm going to want probably a power plant in this area to take advantage of the corridor. So if let's put the air conditioners over here instead. So copy, paste. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have more space west than we have east. East is closer, west is further. Yeah. So, the air conditioning corridor here, meaning that we can have the power plant like here with a bunch of like chem gens where they too can outgas to space. With air conditioning or like a vent if we aren't concerned about oxygen. Right? Something like that. Then the other idea is eventually we're going to have like a separate corridor intentionally that brings enemies in to our base for like kill box reasons. But that's going to be sometime down the line. I'm not worried about that just yet. Meaning that we're going to want a power plant right here. And I have a power plant basically next to the kitchen so that we can make chem fuel easily and fuel up easily. So the concept here is we'll have like a hallway, and I'm going to make maybe initially one wide hallways, but with the ability to widen it to 3 if we want it more like comfortable. A one wide hallway that where the Nutrifungus, or actually I could even have it connect like this. So this will be the chem station, but I'll have it also be a hallway like this where they're interconnected so we can grab Nutrifungus quickly and biofuel refine. The idea here is maybe something like this where we have a biofuel refinery room connected to the power plant. So let's get rid of this pole, because obviously you guys want power plants. So, planting a power plant around there. Got it. So the first thing is I'm just going to have like a little biofuel refining room. And then the power plant room. Because the biofuel refinery should not be in the kitchen. And shouldn't necessarily be in here either. And then the reason to have a separate path here is if the chem gens are generating a lot of heat and for whatever reason we want to capture the heat, it's nice to have the option to capture the heat with venting rather than to vent it out to space. So we can do both. So the idea is we want the flexibility of either keeping the heat or dumping the heat, because there will be times where we want to keep it and when we want to dump it. I'm going to move Quantum's bedroom here. It'll be less disturbed sleep incidents, I think. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld Tribe of the Sky, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow tribe members.